Hello, my name's Dylan Goodall-Harris, FDA radio production level C. This is for study skills. My presentation space is music-based radio. Is the future of music-based radio safe? So we've got the contents page. This is the first thing we go over is the individual essay, which this presentation is based on. The next is what is music-based radio, where I'm going to explain what it is, and I'll give you some examples of stations and the presenters. The problems for that music-based radio suffer from, or they will suffer from, maybe possibly, and what still works, so what keeps people listening to the music-based radio stations. Then new music is kind of like carrying on from the previous slide, and this is one of the main reasons people still listen to music-based radio. Then the conclusion, where I'll explain a possible outcome, which in my opinion will be the most likely outcome. So my individual essay, the title of the essay was "The Future of Radio in a Rapidly Changing Media Landscape is Positive, largely because of the advent of digital technology." And while I was doing this essay, one of the things that came up was that how much technology is affecting music-based radio. And I thought it was quite a good area to talk about, so I've chosen it for the presentation. So what is music-based radio? It's radio stations or shows that are predominantly music, like throughout the whole thing. They'll also include features that will break up the music, and then there'll also be presenters presenting the show to like break up the music and also like link the songs and the content in together, and also the ad breaks if it's a commercial station. I've got a few examples here. BBC Radio 1 and BBC Radio 2 are public service and they broadcast across the UK. Also in the public service is also BBC Radio 3 and 6 Music. And then Heart, Classic and Capital, they're all commercial stations, so they'll have ad breaks included into their shows. Those three are also national, so again they broadcast across the whole of the UK. Then we've got Fire Radio, which again is a commercial radio station, but this is local, so its content will be more relevant to the local area. And then finally we've got a community radio station, which is Hot FM, Hot Radio even, which is local. So community radio is for like social games, so like it will do a lot more based on its local area. We also got Jack FM I put there. I wanted to mention Jack because it's changed the way music-based radios is like laid out, whereas they only have the breakfast show as a show, and then the rest of the day it's just music playing throughout the day. And then between songs and the ad breaks, because it's a commercial station, there'll be a pre-recorded joke put in between. Now I've got presenters from each of these stations. So Chris Evans is Radio 2, Nick Grimshaw is Radio 1. Got Dave Taylor for Fire Radio, JK and Lucy are Heart, Anne-Marie is Classic, Dave Berry and Lisa Snowden is Capital. We've got Paul Stevens for Hot Radio. These are all breakfast show presenters, so usually they'll play like top 40 hits, or they'll play like old classical hits from between like the 70s up to the 2000s, apart from Classic FM, which will play like classical music, which doesn't really come under the other two genres. Um, but one of their main jobs, which is why most people listen to The Breakfast Show, is not just for the music, but for the travel, news and weather updates that these presenters have to make sure are given to the listeners. So the problems that music-based radio faces is, well, one of the main issues that has occurred is iPods and MP3s, and how people can listen to their own selection of music rather than listening to the station's playlist. And also something that iPods have is that, well, rather than they don't have, so they don't have ad breaks and they don't have a presenter linking the songs, so people can just listen to whatever music they want and without being interrupted. And also with iPods and MP3s, they can listen to it wherever they want and whenever they want. And then another thing that kind of links in with the iPods is the pirate downloading, where everyone can technically have access to every song that's been made, and they can download them all to their iPods and MP3s. YouTube has a big part of the pirating in a way, because people can download the music from YouTube, using other websites, just by typing in the URL. But with YouTube as well, there's people who have access to thousands of music, so people can just go on YouTube and listen to these songs whenever they want. And then there's TV. This can be seen as a threat because of its catch-up and on-demand, which is like a new internet-based thing that's also available on the TV. So people can go watch and listen to music through their TV now, and also because it's catch-up and on-demand, they also get a choice of what they listen to. And then one of a massive disadvantage to music-based radio now is podcasting, because it's so cheap. Anyone can make a podcast, and it'll include no adverts or anything, so people can listen to it uninterrupted. There's also, podcasts can also appeal to niche audiences, so so people can have something that's specifically for them in a way. This is the way commercial radio can't work, because it needs the funding from ad breaks. It also needs to make sure it's getting the listeners, so it has to appeal to a majority audience. The problem with podcasting though is that there's no live, up-to-date travel, news and weather updates, so which kind of leads into the next slide, which is the benefits of what still works with music-based radio. One thing that's quite good is the internet, where people can actually listen to it from a live broadcast through the internet, using their computers, laptops, tablets and mobile phones. They can also listen to, on the BBC's website for example, with their iPlayer, they can listen to previous shows that have been on in the last 7 days. So if they've missed the show, or if they just want to listen to it again. There's also another thing that's good with the internet is social networking, where people can interact with the presenters, which I'll go more into in a little bit. The content is another benefit to radio, because it's live as well. My example for this is Scott Mills' Innuendo Bingo on BBC Radio 1, where basically there's a live guest and someone from the team, from Scott Mills' team, go against each other and listen to these clips that other people have found on TV or radio. They'll send them to Scott Mills and then he'll play them to the guest and his team member, and they have to but they end up getting really wet because all the water in their mouths and stuff. But this is a popular show because people can like talk to Scott Mills as he's playing this game, and they'll get like shout outs, and they can also play along at home. And also with the celebrity guests, it also attracts more listeners. The presenters, as a benefit to music-based radio, it's like when they're talking, they feel like the listener can feel like they're having a conversation with the presenter. And this is more emphasised now with social networking, as people can contact the presenter directly through using Twitter and Facebook. And then, yes, this is like something that's vital for music-based radio to keep its listeners is the news, weather and travel updates, because people want to know what's going on in their local roads, and if there's local schools have shut for their kids and all that, like if it snows too hard. And so let's set up their new music, which leads into my next slide. Basically, I've got like just a few examples of presenters that introduce new music to their audiences. One of the people who first started doing this is John Peel. He would like introduce new music to his listeners because he mailed music from bands that like not big name bands, and then if he thought the music was good, he'd bring them into his show and for them to perform live. And then BBC Six Music was set up in John Peel's honour, like after he passed. They do the same thing John Peel did and get bands to come in and play live on their shows. Fearne Cotton does a similar kind of thing with her shows. As she gets like famous big named artists and bands to come into her stage show and perform a big name song from someone else. And that usually attracts loads of listeners because they like hearing other people do other people's songs. And then Annie Mac, who does Late Night Show on Friday, she introduces new DJs through her shows, and she also takes them on tour with her. And like some of the names that have came up through Annie Mac is Disclosure, Azealia Banks and Katie B, who have all had music in the charts. And then, to my conclusion. Something missing from my conclusion. But yeah, basically, my opinion, what I think may happen to music-based radio in the future is that it will turn into the style of Jack FM, where they'll have a breakfast show, and I also reckon there'll be a drive time show, which will include live updates for the travel, news and weather. I think that's the main reason music-based programming won't go, because that's one of the main features that gets people listening. And then for the rest of the day, there'll just be music in the same way Jack FM does things. But really though, only time will tell what the outcome will be, because it's too early to predict in a way. And that's the end of my presentation. Is there any questions? Nope. Okay. There isn't any references because I haven't used any websites or anything. So yeah, it's the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening.